everyone, Tori ND Piano here with another Disney Dreamlight Valley Nancy Drew video. And I am so excited about this video and to show this space off to you today. And hopefully you've already realized that we have an entire Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake biome in my game. And this came together quite quickly and unexpectedly earlier this month. And I'll give you that backstory momentarily. But before then, I just wanted to say that I am dedicating this video and all of the decorating in it to my friend Sleuthy, aka Southern Sleuth. She is an absolute gem, and her favorite Nancy Drew game is Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. I was very excited to be able to make this happen in time to put this video out very close to her birthday and surprise her in that way and just dedicate this to her. So as for how this biome happened, you may have seen that I have another Disney Dreamlight Nancy Drew video where I did a tour of my Nancy Drew inspired house, which has 4 rooms in it that are inspired by different environments from the games. And my friend Abby commented on the video and she said, I think it would be amazing if you could do the speakeasy in your valley. And when I saw that comment, my brain immediately fixated on the idea and thought, wait, Disney Dreamlight has the Forest of Valor. We have an entire biome that is a forest. So if the game would just put some kind of cabin in the premium shop that in any way, shape, or form reminds me of Sally McDonald's cabin, then I'm just going to tear my whole Forest of Valor apart. And I'm going to do not just a speakeasy, but an entire Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake biome. And lo and behold, it was not too long after I had that thought that it was either the end of August or the beginning of September that they put a cabin in the premium shop. And I had the moonstones to buy it, so I immediately did, and then I just dove all the way into making this biome. And I'm very pleased with how it turned out. It has lots of little details that are a nod to Ghost Dogs, and I'm sure if you know the game in any way, you won't even need me to explain them to you. You will immediately pick up on them. But let's go ahead and start the tour and just show off the outdoors area and then the cabin and what's inside there. So first things first, had to start by making sure that Nancy's car is trapped by a fallen tree and can't leave. So the very first thing you see is this space with the fallen logs and the car. And then coming into this space, I'll go ahead, since it's right here, and just show off. Here is our tree stump where the red-tailed hawk would be found, so Nancy could take a picture of it. And I could stand right here and I could get my camera out and I can try to take pictures and see the hawk, and then, oh wait, there's something on that roof. What's happening? So that was a nice little touch. And then coming around here, this area, let's start by going to the right because that's what's familiar. You come down this path. I decided to use Rapunzel's tower just because of the shape of it as Red Knot's space. I'm really hoping that the premium shop will put some kind of treehouse type thing in as a house skin, but I haven't seen one yet. So in the meantime, we are using Rapunzel's tower for Red Knot, and you have this path, and I tried to keep the trees pushed farther back because in the game it's very grassy and there aren't really any trees immediately there. But then coming over to this area, this is where I got to use some creative license. Because I had this huge chunk of space. Needed to put something here and I wanted to do more than just fill it up with trees and other types of foliage and rocks. So I thought about the fact that in the game we're told that Sally McDonald's property, it's this little section of property on Moon Lake that is then surrounded by the parkland. And so I thought, okay, well, let's show that off in the game by putting this picnic kind of area. And we're just going to say that this is part of the park's property, that they have this designated area for picnicking. And I would like to think that Jeff Akers would be very pleased with this area because it's contained and has the recycling bins and trash cans and everything, so that people will be very responsible with their garbage, hopefully, and take care of it, so he doesn't have to give tickets. But right over here, probably my favorite detail in this entire biome is this sandwich that I left on the picnic table. And again, if you know the game, you know that there is a conversation that Sally and Nancy can have very early in the game about Jeff Akers, where Sally tells Nancy about how there was this incident where she left part of a sandwich on a picnic table and Jeff Akers nailed her for it. And so I was so excited, like, yes, let's make a sandwich and just leave it on the picnic table, drive Ranger Akers nuts, and he's gonna come after us and give us a ticket. So it's such a little detail, and I love it so much. So that's this half of the biome. And then I'll talk about that stuff on the left momentarily. This is another area where I had to use creative license because the wishing well and Goofy stall, those things are requirements for this game that cannot be moved out of this biome. So I needed to put them somewhere. So I went ahead and just put them over here right up against the edge. And again, just because I had all of this open space, and Disney recently did an event where you could craft new camping furniture, I went ahead and just put those things down here because this is meant to be a campground kind of area. So just put those things there to help fill up the space. We are not going to set the forest on fire. We will be responsible. And then coming all the way down here, this is technically an outhouse, but we're going to pretend for the purposes of this biome that it's just the shed with a face only a gnome could love inside it. And it is still standing and intact right now, but I was excited that there was some kind of wooden building that I could use to be a nod to the shed. And then we'll come over here and we'll take you inside the cabin at the end of the tour. But there are barrels on this side of the house, so I made sure to put those down. And then we had to make sure that we got a well. And I already have my bucket of water put down so that when the fire starts, I can set it out. And I can interact with this and even make the water come out, which is a nice little touch. And then coming back here behind the house, there are those stepping stones that circle around the house. So I used these Eternity Isle tiles as those. And then these stones right here, I just put down to be a nod to the cellar doors that you can use to get down into the cellar from the outside. And then also we know that Sally has that big junk pile out in the yard, so I just grabbed a bunch of random things from my furniture stash and set them over here to be like that junk pile. And then let's come here. We have to now go into the forest behind the house. So because of the way this biome is laid out, there was no way I was going to be able to perfectly recreate the forest. There's just not enough space. So instead I just tried to do a much smaller one with things that are a very clear reference to the forest in the game. So we have the trees everywhere, and I made sure to put random rocks and logs down so that when it is time to hunt for our dozen little critters, we can pull those up and look for bugs. And then at the end of paths, most of them, I tried to put some sort of landmark because we know in the game that Nancy likes to make a note on the map of the different landmarks just to help her know where she is. So this one ends with a dead tree. And then coming to this path, our first fork in the road, we have a fallen log. And we'll go to the right, and we will come all the way down to another dead end. And here is my nod to the stone pillar that's on the right side of the map. And then coming back this way, we come around the corner, and here is a tree stump. And then this one is just a plain dead end because there are some of those in the game. And then when we come down here and take our right, we find ourselves, ta-da, at the cemetery. And again, a little detail that I love is this rock here on the right, because that is a rock specifically that you must get some bugs out from under in the game. And then coming into the cemetery, so let me explain some details in here. These flower beds and rocks that are on the ground are how people who play this game do tombstones. If I had just put rocks down, it wouldn't have been sufficiently clear, I feel like, that I was trying to do the headstones. So I also just put the flower beds down to make it very clear, like, this is a cemetery. This is what you should be picturing here. And then these four things are actually just fence posts. But when I was looking through my furniture items and crafting options, they looked like the very best thing to use as the pillars for the four dogs. And then this big stone statue thing is the closest thing that I could get to in terms of having something that looked like Mickey Malone's crypt. So this is the cemetery, and I will need to, at the end of this tour, set the time of day to night, just so we can do a nighttime forest tour and come visit the cemetery. We're gonna find our way back here, leave the forest, and then let us go inside the house and see how this turned out. And again, just to show this off, this is a camping cabin that they put in the premium shop recently, and because it's a cabin, I said that's good enough for me to do Sally McDonald's space. So let's go in. So the main room of this house is Sally McDonald's cabin. And obviously it's not a perfect recreation, but it's got plenty of details that are a nod to the cabin. So for example, on this side of the room, we have this grandfather clock that's standing in for the cuckoo clock. And I love these boarded up windows that I was able to put down because the cabin is in a lot of disrepair. And then this furnace, it's from the Frozen collection. It's quite similar to the furnace that is actually in Sally's cabin. And an old looking chair, a vintage lamp on the table, some cans over here, the sofa, and the old telephone. Must have the old phone. And I wish that I had been able to do some kind of shelving up here to give a nod to the dog statues that are up there, but there just weren't any good options, so I skipped that part. And then coming to this side of the room, we have a old-fashioned stove like the cabin has. And then I love the details on the table and the chandelier above it. So we have the cooler and a soda can and a banana all making it into the mix. And then through this door, this will be our last part of the tour today, we have the speakeasy. So it's connected on the right side of the house, just like in the game. And we're going to pretend that we're going down into the basement. But before we do that, I need to do an outfit change. And I realized as I was making this video that I didn't even talk to you about how my avatar is dressed. But you probably didn't need me to tell you that I am Emily Griffin today, and she is giving us the tour. But someone else is going to do the speakeasy tour, so we're going to do a quick change right here. And Vivian Whitmore in her glory days. We are getting the tour from her. So just picture we have gone back in time to the 1920s. Mickey Malone, Vivian Whitmore, everyone is there enjoying their time in the speakeasy. And I'm sure she would have been dressed in some sort of roaring 20s outfit like this. She would be very happy to take us on this tour. So let's go in and see the speakeasy. And here it is. And this space is, I would say, much more inspired by the speakeasy in the game rather than a recreation of, because there's just not enough furniture options to do a true recreation, and the way the room is laid out just has to be different. But it's definitely a speakeasy. So we've got some tables down, and I wanted this space to look like it was actually being used, which is why I have food and root beer all over the place, because we're trying to picture this how it was, not when Nancy finds it, but back in time, when people would have actually been using it. And you may have noticed, hopefully when you've played the game, that there's that little corner of the room that has musical instruments. Specifically, you can see a guitar and an upright piano and a harp. So I was able to put all of those down in here. And then we have the bar area up here and a space behind to get things ready. And then over here, there's supposed to be a dartboard on that empty wall space right there, but there's a glitch in this game that makes it not show up. So that's what's going on. That's what's going on there. And then one other detail in this room that I was very happy about was, how can I do something that is a nod to the portraits for the 4 dogs? And there are no dog portraits in Disney Dreamlight Valley to my knowledge, but you do have the option to do customized canvases. So I made some of those, and I looked through the dog options, and I saw this wolf motif that I really got excited about, because it has the moon in the center of the wolf's head, and it has a starry night to actually make the wolf's coloring. And that just feels like a really appropriate nod to Ghost Dogs, because you can play the game at night. And then also the moon is something you can see in the game, and it gives light so that Nancy doesn't need her flashlight. And also we have a track on the soundtrack that's called Moon. And so what I did was I put these wolf motifs down, put a nice pattern in the background, and then I made sure to do the collar colors for each of the dogs. And I put them approximately where you would find them in the room. So hence why yellow, blue, and then green and red over here. And I do apologize, Sleuthy, that off the top of my head I can't just rattle off which dog goes with which color. If I had thought about it, I would have checked into that beforehand, but I did at least verify that the colors are approximately in the right part of the room. So that is my Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake tour. The biome, and also the cabin and the speakeasy. So to wrap up this video, I'm just going to give you a nighttime tour of the forest so that we can wander back to the cemetery just like Nancy does at night and go pay a visit to Red Knot's stand.